The silence had given them strength. The rituals had given them order. But now it was time for the Mafia to rise, not just in Sicily, but across oceans into cities of power and blood. This was the Mafia's golden age. By the early 20th century, the Mafia was entrenched in Sicilian society. Landowners still paid protection, mayors still feared their whispers, police still looked the other way, or took a bribe to do so. But the Mafia was no longer content with shadow power. They began infiltrating elected offices, unions, and the courts. In Palermo, Mafia-backed candidates won municipal seats. In rural Sicily, mafiosi acted as political brokers, deciding which candidate would live or die. Italy was modernizing. But the Mafia was modernizing too. At the turn of the century, a wave of Sicilian emigration began. Hundreds of thousands of poor Italians left for the United States, Argentina, and Brazil. Among them were mafiosi. They brought with them their code, their rituals, and their connections. Soon, American cities like New York, New Orleans, and Chicago would become new battlegrounds for the Mafia's influence. But even as power grew abroad, the Sicilian Mafia remained the mother organization, the source of legitimacy and often authority. Back home, they watched, they waited, and then came Mussolini. In 1922, Benito Mussolini seized power in Italy, promising to crush the Mafia. He saw them not just as criminals, but as a challenge to his absolute rule, and he chose a weapon, Cesare Mori, the Iron Prefect. Between 1925 and 1929, Mori led a brutal campaign. Villages were raided, suspects tortured, thousands arrested, Mafia hideouts burned. He made public shows of strength, forcing mafiosi to kiss his fascist badge instead of the boss's hand. Mori declared victory. Mussolini believed him. But the Mafia wasn't dead. It had gone underground. Some fled to the U.S., others melted into the countryside waiting for the winds to shift. And shift they did, with the coming of war. In 1943, the Allies launched Operation Husky, the invasion of Sicily. But they faced a problem. Local intelligence was scarce, so they turned to the Mafia. Through secret back channels in New York, U.S. naval intelligence made contact with Lucky Luciano, the American mob boss with deep Sicilian roots. In exchange for reducing his prison sentence, Luciano helped the Allies establish contacts in Sicily. When Allied troops landed, they were often greeted, not resisted, by Mafia-linked locals. In return, the Allies allowed mafiosi to reclaim power, often appointing them as mayors or anti-fascist leaders. The Mafia, once hunted by the fascists, became liberators in the eyes of many Sicilians. It was a stunning reversal. With the fall of Mussolini, the Mafia re-emerged from hiding. Many dons who had been imprisoned or exiled now returned as respected men. They reclaimed land. They restarted protection rackets. They infiltrated the Christian Democratic Party, which would dominate post-war Italy. And for the first time, they looked beyond Sicily as a base of power. Palermo became a new center, not just of politics, but of international heroin trafficking, real estate manipulation, and money laundering. The silence had returned, but now it was backed by wealth, guns, and a global network. From 1900 to 1945, the Mafia perfected its machinery. Violence was selective and surgical. Public image was carefully managed. Religion remained a shield. The Omertà remained unbroken. A mafioso could be a churchgoer by morning, and a killer by midnight. They gave to the poor. They killed the disloyal. They buried their enemies in orange groves and mountain caves, and above all, they never talked. The silence wasn't just a rule, it was a weapon, in a land where everyone knew, but no one spoke. This era gave rise to legends, names spoken with reverence or fear. Vito Cascio Ferro, the godfather who straddled two continents, and once told a judge, "I am an honest man who minds his own business." Can the state say the same? Giuseppe Genco Russo, who rose from shepherd to mafia kingpin, later rubbing shoulders with cardinals and presidents. They dressed in fine suits. They moved through parliaments and palaces. But they came from the same soil, poor Sicilian villages steeped in centuries of mistrust. By 1945, the mafia was no longer just an underworld force. It had become a myth, a brand, a mechanism of control so deeply woven into Sicilian life that it was invisible. To outsiders, it was a tale of gangsters and gunfights. To Sicilians, it was reality, unavoidable, eternal, and untouchable. And as the world rebuilt after the war, the mafia was already rebuilding its empire. But a storm was coming, one that would shake Sicily and the mafia to its core. In the ashes of war, the mafia found rebirth. In silence, it gained power. But the golden age could not last forever, because greed, blood, and betrayal were on the horizon.